You ever wake up one day and realize your entire life, everything you thought was real, was a lie? My name is Daniel Walker. I'm 51. For the past 13 years, I've been living thousands of miles away from my wife, Elena, and my mother. I did it for them, for my family. I bled, sweated, sacrificed everything so they could live comfortably while I rebuilt our life from nothing. But what I came home to, nothing could have prepared me for that. Let me take you back. 13 years ago, the recession hit like a tsunami. My father had just passed, and I was left holding the reins of his construction business. Overnight, the company crumbled. I was drowning, responsible for my grieving mother, a wife who relied on me, and two school-aged kids who needed stability. I was burning through savings, fast. So I made a brutal choice. I left Texas behind and moved to Dubai, hoping to rebuild from scratch. I tried everything, different countries, different markets, until finally, after grinding day and night, I managed to stand on my own 2 feet again. A new business, a new chance. And through it all, I kept sending money back. Home. To Elena. To the kids. To Mom. At first, I visited every 5 to 6 months. I wanted to bring them over to live with me, but Elena insisted the children's schooling shouldn't be disrupted. I understood. I didn't push. Time passed. Our daughters grew up. They're both adults now, living independently in Houston. So last year, with no more parenting duties holding us back, I asked Elena to finally join me in Dubai. Her answer? A firm no. She said she couldn't leave my mother alone. But I offered a solution. We could all move. Me, her, and Mom. A fresh start, together. Again, she refused. Claimed the culture wasn't right for them. Said she loved our hometown too much. So I respected it. Then I decided, maybe it was time for me to come home for good. I told her I was thinking about shutting things down in Dubai, moving back to Texas, rebuilding something local now that the economy had bounced back. I thought she'd be thrilled. She wasn't. In fact, she seemed off, almost annoyed. She told me I'd worked too hard to just throw it away, that I should stay where I was. That should have been a red flag. But then, right on cue, my mother shows up at the house the next morning, echoing Elena's exact words. That I shouldn't rush home. That I was making a mistake. And I hadn't told her anything. Not a word. So who told her? Right. Elena. I tried to ignore the pit forming in my stomach. Maybe they were just looking out for me. Maybe they didn't want me to give up my success. But a part of me was screaming, something is wrong. After I returned to Dubai, the distance between Elena and me grew colder. I started texting less, calling less, just to see if she'd notice. She didn't. Sometimes we'd go days, weeks without speaking. When we did talk, it was just about bills, the house, or my mother. Nothing about us. No warmth. No affection. It was as if I was just a distant paycheck. I finally asked her if she even loved me anymore. Her reply? You're overthinking. She said she was just busy, taking care of the house, taking care of Mom, that I was imagining things. But I wasn't. I felt it. The emotional wall between us wasn't a figment of my imagination. I was being pushed out of my own life. And worst of all, I started wondering if another man had taken my place. But how do you find the truth when you're thousands of miles away? I couldn't sit in silence anymore. The questions were tearing me apart. Was it me? Was she just tired of waiting? Or was there someone else in the picture, someone who'd been living in the shadows while I broke my back overseas? I needed answers. And I wasn't going to get them by sitting in an office in Dubai pretending everything was okay. So I booked a flight. Unannounced. Uninvited. I didn't tell a soul, not Elena, not my mother. I wanted to see the truth raw, without filters or rehearsed explanations. When I arrived at the house in Texas, I used the spare key. My heart was pounding out of my chest as I walked through the door, half expecting to find a stranger in my bed. But no. Elena was in the kitchen. She froze when she saw me. I had a bouquet of flowers in my hand, just to keep the surprise from feeling too hostile. She forced a smile, tight, uncomfortable, fake. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? She asked, clearly rattled. I told her work had lightened up, and I wanted to spend some time at home. She nodded, but the look in her eyes wasn't joy. It was panic. For the next few days, I played the role of the unsuspecting husband, while behind the scenes, I turned into a full-blown investigator. I did things I never thought I would, things I'm not proud of. But the need to know the truth overpowered everything. I planted a GPS in her car. I tracked her movements. I listened to phone conversations, watched her body language, her habits. And bit by bit, the truth unraveled. The phone? Always guarded now. She used to wipe everything clean before I came home. This time, I caught her off guard, but still, she'd erased any trace. She was good at this. Too good. But the GPS never lied. One day, I followed her to a hardware store on the edge of town. At first, I thought nothing of it. She stayed there a while. Too long. I waited outside in my car, hoping I was just paranoid. But then, the shutters went down. The store was closed, locked from the inside. She stayed in there for hours. When she finally came out, her hair was disheveled, her face flushed, and the store reopened the moment she left. That was it. I knew. I didn't confront her that day. I waited, watched, followed her every time she left the house. Then came the day I couldn't stay silent. She told me she was going to visit my mother. Normally, I would have backed off. Why question someone seeing their elderly mother-in-law? But something told me to follow. And what I saw that day will haunt me forever. They left the house together, Elena and my mother, driving in the same car. At first, I assumed they were just running errands or going shopping. I followed them, quietly, heart thudding like a war drum. Part of me still hoped I was wrong. But they didn't head to the mall. They pulled up in front of that same hardware store. The same one with the hidden affair. I parked a short distance away, barely breathing. Then the door to the shop opened. And he stepped out. A man in his 50s, scruffy, smug, he looked too comfortable. Too familiar. He walked right up to the car and kissed Elena. Kissed her. Right there. In front of my mother. And my mother? She just smiled. Got out of the car. Greeted him like a friend. As if this man hadn't just defiled her son's marriage. As if this was normal. Then he hugged her. She got back in the car and drove off. Elena walked inside with him. And the shutters came down. They had done this before. This wasn't new. This was their ritual. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. I just stood there, frozen in betrayal. Eventually, I forced myself to walk toward the store. I knocked. No answer. I knocked harder, louder, until finally, the man opened the door, looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Where's Elena?" I asked. He stuttered. I didn't wait. I shoved past him and stormed inside. It was dark. Quiet. I heard a soft moan from the back room, like a whisper in a nightmare. I ran toward the sound, kicked open the door, and there she was. Elena. My wife. Half naked, sprawled out, touching herself, moaning for him. She didn't even see me at first. But he did. He came at me, tried to drag me away. We fought. I hit him hard once, twice. Elena screamed. Covered herself. The whole moment was chaos. I grabbed her by the shoulders, shouted in her face. How long? She sobbed. Tried to hide. Begged me to go home so we could talk in private. But the truth was already out. And it stank. I stormed out, heart pounding, hands shaking. I didn't go home. I went to my mother's house. I burst through the door, yelling, "You knew. You knew all along." She didn't even pretend to be surprised. She just wept and clutched my hand like a fragile old actress. And then Elena walked in. Already called ahead, no doubt. Her face, those tearful eyes, that trembling voice, meant nothing to me now. I asked again. How long? Her answer? 7, maybe 8 years. 8 years. I stood there, numb, staring at the woman I once would have taken a bullet for. 8 years of my life, thrown into a pit and set on fire. And all she could say was, it just happened. I was lonely. Lonely? I was on the other side of the planet, rebuilding our lives from rubble. Alone. No friends, no family. Working 18-hour days in a place I didn't belong. I didn't cheat. I didn't look for comfort in someone else's arms. But she did. Over and over. With that man. For 8 damn years. I asked her why she didn't just divorce me. She broke down in tears, saying, because I still love you. She said the affair meant nothing. That it was just to distract herself. That she never wanted to lose me. Imagine that. A woman using another man's bed as a coping mechanism, while claiming to still love the man she betrayed. I turned to my mother, my own flesh and blood. How could you support this? How could you stand by and watch my marriage rot? She sobbed. Daniel, I know you hate me, but I was alone too. You left us here. Elena took care of me. She had needs. I understood her pain. Needs? So that justifies everything? 13 years of silence, of knowing what was going on behind my back? And the woman who birthed me stood there and played the quiet accomplice? They begged me to stay, tried to hold me back. But I told them both, stay away from me. I walked out that night with nothing but my car keys and a thunderstorm brewing in my chest. I drove aimlessly through the streets, the same roads I grew up on, now stained with betrayal. Everything I once called home was gone. And the worst part? I wasn't angry because Elena cheated. I was angry because she made me believe she never would. I spent the next few days drifting in and out of thought. No appetite. No sleep. Just pain. Deep, crawling pain. Then it hit me, my daughters. They deserved to know. They weren't children anymore. They were grown women, living their own lives now. But they had no idea what their mother had done behind closed doors while I was out there trying to give them everything. So I drove to Houston. I sat them down and told them the truth. All of it. I didn't sugarcoat anything. They listened in stunned silence, tears in their eyes, fury in their fists. My eldest, Ava, said something that stopped me cold. Dad, I always felt like something was off. Mom and Grandma, they were hiding something. I just didn't know what. She also admitted she once suspected my mom of seeing a widower who lived nearby. That wasn't my concern. She could date whoever she wanted. But shielding Elena's affair? That was unforgivable. I stayed the night. The next morning, I packed my things and returned to the house in Texas for one reason only: to leave. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just disappeared. When Elena and my mother arrived and found the house empty, I can only imagine the look on their faces. Panic, probably. Regret. But I was done. The calls started soon after. First, voicemails filled with sobbing apologies. Then texts. Then threats. Then pleas again. I didn't block them, oh no. I wanted them to squirm. I wanted them to sit with that silence. To feel what it's like when someone vanishes and doesn't owe you an explanation. Then I froze everything. Bank accounts. Credit cards. All of it. And just like that, their comfort collapsed. Neither of them had income. My mother had a small pension, but it couldn't support the lifestyle they'd grown used to, my lifestyle. Elena had nothing. She never worked a day since I left. They depended on me like parasites clinging to the skin of a host. They tried everything: manipulation, guilt trips, even invoking my father's memory. Your dad would be heartbroken, my mom texted one night. No, he'd be furious. And even now, after everything, the worst betrayal wasn't from Elena. It was from her. My own mother. Elena's affair partner? He's no Prince Charming. He runs a dusty hardware store and lives in a rusted camper behind it. Has an ailing father to care for. No house. No future. No means to support her. And yet, this was the man she gambled everything for. She now works in that very shop. Doing what? I don't care. Whether she's paid in dollars or something more degrading is her burden to bear. She wanted freedom. She got it. Now let her wear it like armor. As for my mother, sometimes I feel a flicker of guilt. A pang. She's old. Fragile. But then I remember, she chose loyalty to Elena over her own son. She may have apologized, but her words were hollow. No remorse. Just regret that she lost her safety net. She still has her pension. It's enough. Let her live with the consequences she helped create. Maybe one day I'll forgive her. But not today. People told me to move on. Embrace life. Enjoy Dubai's luxury and nightlife. But let me tell you, Dubai is no fantasy. That glamorous lifestyle you see online? It takes money. A lot of it. And even if I could afford it, I'm not interested. I'm not trying to bury my grief under someone else's body. What I do want is clarity. Peace. So I've started traveling. China. Bali. More to come. Each country, each street I walk, it helps scrub away the poison they poured into my life. I haven't filed for divorce yet. Why should I? Elena would only benefit, legally and financially. I'm still legally married. But emotionally? That bond died the day I saw her walk into that store and disappear behind those shutters. She can rot in that house I paid for. That's all she's getting from me. Let her threaten lawsuits. Let her send letters. I'm a ghost in a different country. Unreachable. Untouchable. And free. Sometimes I wonder, was I blind? 13 years away. 13 years of sacrifice. Building a business from the dirt with nothing but grit and obligation in my heart. I did it all so my family could thrive. And while I worked, they rewrote the story without me in it. They say betrayal by a spouse breaks your heart. But betrayal by your own mother? That fractures your identity. Even now, there are moments I look at a quiet sky or an empty street and feel the weight of it pressing down. But I no longer let it define me. I've grieved. I've burned. Now I'm rebuilding, not for them, but for me. I don't hate Elena anymore. I pity her. She gambled a devoted husband for a man who lives in a camper and hides behind shop shutters. I don't hate my mother either. I just no longer recognize her. My daughters? They stood by me. They saw through the lies. And that's what gives me hope. That something real still exists in this twisted wreck of a life I built. I'm not the same man who left 13 years ago. He was naive, hopeful, willing to bear any burden in silence. The man I am now, he knows what silence hides, and he'll never be silent again. So if you're asking me what I would have done differently, the answer is nothing. I gave everything. They gave me back a lesson. Now, I walk my own road, with clear eyes, steady hands, and no one left to lie to.